Being here today, Jeff, with me. This is a pleasure to be having this conversation together. I know that we've both been on sort of this journey of playing with the role of AI in careers. And today we want to share with our audience and talk about how we're using AI to help clients future proof their careers, whether that's with integrating it into sort of their long-term career strategy and also in their job search. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about sort of what have you been exploring and discovering, and also maybe how did you come across this as a focus right now?
Yeah, well, mm, out of necessity, like I think everybody, but I kind of realized a couple years ago that wow, this is going to change everything. So started working with it, and the more I got into it, the more it was just like, wow, this is big, and it just keeps getting bigger, and it keeps moving faster and faster, yeah, just if I'm going to be a really good career coach, I've got to understand this deeply. How did you get into this?
Yeah, I think similarly, when I started realizing that my clients were talking about it and saying, well, there's all these AI tools now. Should I be using them? And I know that employers are using AI to hire. Like, how does that impact me? So as I started getting curious and exploring, as we do as coaches, right? I started realizing that, yeah, this is really the way of the times right now, and it's a necessity to be successful, I think, as you said.
100%. Yeah. Good. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about how to use AI to future-proof your career, and then how to use AI for job search. And then we'll talk about next steps, like where do you actually go from here? So future-proof. We're going to go a long way in the next 15 minutes as I'm talking about how to future-proof your career. The replay of this will be up, so don't feel like you have to absorb everything all at once. And this can be a heavy topic. So we're going to start with the bad news and then move into the good news. So hang on for the good news. So future proof, what does that even mean? Let's get clear on that goal. So future proof means building the skills, the mindsets, and the roles that remain valuable and relevant as technology, markets, and job demands evolve. We're going to talk about each of these, but let's start with technology because that's the big one that has just changed so quickly all of a sudden. So we were living in fairly stable times, and then along comes AI. And at first, we don't know what to make of it. And honestly, at first, it really sucked, didn't it? A couple years ago, it hallucinated. It didn't produce great results. Clearly, it couldn't do our work as good as we could do it. But wow, it improved quickly. This is mid journey. And from version 1 to version 6, it went from garbage to excellent. And that was just in 18 months. And this isn't limited to image generation, like programming, reasoning, computer use, general intelligence. Pretty much every aspect of AI has been evolving at this rate. It's just kind of invisible because we don't see it. Anthropic's new model that they just released last week was able to work for 7 hours on a project without losing cohesion. So if you just think about how much work that is doing, it's incredible. So AI is now production ready. We can produce incredible results with it if you know how. And this is as bad as it's ever going to be. Right now, AI is about 118 IQ. Humans, of course, are 100. And within 1 year at this current trajectory, you'll have an IQ of 140. And then a year after that, a year after that. So you can see that if AI isn't capable of doing what you want it to do yet, it will be. So a little bit more bad news, and then we'll get into the good news. We're at a stage right now that is kind of the stage that the iPhone or mobile was at right before the App Store. So right before the App Store, the iPhone was a pretty interesting piece of tech, but you couldn't do a hell of a lot with it. But then the App Store came out and suddenly, boom, it went in all directions. There was a ton of capabilities that you now had at your fingertips. So that's kind of where we are with AI right now. We're using generic ChatGPT and generic AI, but what's being developed behind the scenes at an incredible rate is AI that's specifically trained to do certain jobs, like trained as an accountant or a legal assistant or a project manager. So companies are working on that now, and we'll soon have a kind of like an app store for workers. So what we know for sure is that within 1 to 3 years, almost all work that we can do on a computer will be doable by AI. Almost all work we can do with our voice will be doable by AI, not without human supervision, though. And this is super important to keep in mind as we're thinking about this. The fear that people often have is AI is just going to take my job. And that's not really the case. AI is going to do a lot of the work that we can do, but we need humans to direct it, to train it, to validate the results, to decide what to work on. Humans are needed, but AI will be capable of doing most of the tasks. So again, 1 to 3 years from now, if you can describe how to do it, AI will be able to do it 100 times faster, cheaper, and with ever increasing quality. All right. So at this point, it's very common to feel like this. So we're facing a lot of unknown and a lot of change, and that's scary. But the scary part's over now. So let's take a breath and make a plan for navigating this new future. Now, not just survive it, but let's talk about how to future-proof your career so you get to really take advantage of the incredible opportunities that AI offers. Okay, we talked about technology. Now let's talk about the valuable and relevant part. So what is valuable and relevant work? Valuable and relevant work is work that produces a result that others need and are willing to pay for. So now, what are people willing to pay for? There's really two things when you break it down that people are willing to pay for. They're willing to pay to solve a problem or to fulfill an aspiration. So solve a problem like I got a broken tooth, or I need to launch a product, or I need to reduce employee turnover, anything like that. Fulfill an aspiration like I want to have a great night out with my friends, or I want to achieve my fitness goals or start a business. Now, can you think of anything that we pay for that doesn't either solve a problem or fulfill an aspiration? I've yet to find anything, and of the hundreds of people I've talked about this with, nobody's ever come up with anything that we pay for that doesn't either solve some kind of problem, a pain or a need, or fulfill some kind of aspiration. So everything we do in our jobs, everything you do in your job is either helping solve a problem or fulfill an aspiration. And it's helpful to think of your job in that way. Now, notice that when you pay for something, it doesn't really matter who's doing the work as long as it's done well. Nobody pays just for work. People pay for the results that they get. Okay. So now we talked about valuable and relevant. Now we're ready to look at the first mindset shift. So to step into this new world of work, what we need to do is shift from thinking of ourselves as doing the work to knowing ourselves as the ones that are solving problems. What's valuable to be valuable and relevant in the future, that's the shift that we need to make. You are no longer the worker. This is really important. So the role is changing. You are no longer the worker. But if you're no longer the worker, what do you do?
It's a great question.
Yeah. So your role, this is the role that I would love you to have starting today. Change your role to being the creative and resourceful person who helps solve important problems and helps people fulfill aspirations. The creative and resourceful person with emotions and a body and wisdom and relationships who lives in the real world, who uses AI along with your own talents and creativity and experience to solve important problems, who can listen and observe and connect and understand what problems people have, and then use AI to help you solve those problems. So you are solving the problems and you're using AI to help you. So we use AI just like we use a washing machine, an executive assistant, or a doctor. This is what's different from previous technologies. So we use doctors and plumbers and accountants, if you think about it, to solve problems. We use employees and colleagues and our bosses to help us solve problems. Now we use AI to help us solve problems. So AI does a lot of the work, but we are responsible for solving the problems. And that's where the value is identifying the important problems and then helping solve them. So now, if you're worried about there not being enough work, ask yourself this: is the world ever going to run out of problems? I suggest not. No matter what new technologies come around, we never run out of problems. In fact, it seems like the problems increase. So And in fact, new technologies introduce new kinds of problems that we need to solve. So kind of summing it up, the problems don't go away, the work doesn't go away, the job doesn't even go away. Your role as the worker is going away. So we've got to make that shift from being the worker to being the boss of a team of AI workers and AI tools. And that's the role that is going to allow us to be relevant and valuable in the future. So your AI team is doing,
I think when people think of that, they might be thinking like, are you talking about like overseeing a team of robots? Like, what does that look like in action? I'm guessing you're going to tell us right now, but I would
yeah. Well, what we're gonna what
yeah.
we're gonna talk about is AI literacy. Like, as you start to learn the tools, you'll start to see the different types of AI that are out there, and eventually, I guess robots are going to be what we're going to be dealing with. But I don't see that in the near future. So for now, you start with tools, and then you've got chatbots, and then you've got custom GPTs, and then agents. It
Mhm.
evolves. Okay, so your AI team is doing the most of the work. You're orchestrating that team to solve important problems. You're deciding what needs to be done and giving AI instructions and data. It needs to do the work properly. You're validating the work was done properly and correcting when necessary. So now, if that's what you're doing, identifying the most valuable and important problems and then orchestrating a team to solve those problems, we're ready now to talk about the skills. What are the skills necessary to really perform that role well? And really, it's the ability to use AI to produce a result. And we're going to call that AI literacy. So, next, let's take a look at the 6 levels of AI literacy and see if you can identify what level you're at right now. So, at level one, people are using AI as kind of a Google replacement, asking it questions, giving it simple prompts, a few lines of text and asking it to do something, generating images, generating text. At level two, now you're using it like a productivity tool. So just like you use apps right now, you're entering much more advanced prompts. You're getting it to do some really useful work, generating images or generating meeting summaries, coding, editing images, writing YouTube scripts, doing research. The third level, though, is when you get to the point where you realize, wow, AI is not an app. AI is intelligence. Now, at this point, you realize it's capable of doing way more than you thought. It can be a thought partner. It can be a brainstorming partner. You can create a custom GPT with the persona of and voice of Steve Jobs and have a conversation with him. You can create autonomous agents and give them a goal and set them off for 20 minutes to accomplish tasks. You can do really deep strategic planning. Now, at this point, you realize AI is a cognitive enhancer. And it really starts to feel like the sky's the limit. It's kind of like if you were somebody who was great at digging ditches or working with a shovel, and then somebody comes along with a backhoe. It doesn't matter how good you were with the shovel. The backhoe is going to be able to do way more, and these sort of power tools are going to be able to do way more. And that's what you get to at this level is you start building these agents, these custom GPTs, these tools in a way that they become these cognitive enhancers for you. And that leads to level four. When you start to build a team, you realize, wow, I can build out these personas, these characters, and I can train them. I can give them a number of documents. I can give them my business goals, my strengths and weaknesses, my marketing plan. I can give them all these things to train them. I can give them mental frameworks to work with. I can give them problem solving methodologies that I want them to follow. All these things I can start building into them and getting them to be better, better, better. And so I'm building out this team. And this is what my team looks like. I've built out a series of custom GPTs and assistants and agents. And whenever I need to accomplish something, I just come here and I pick the person that I need to work with and I jump in. So that's level four. Now, level five is when, oops, gotta go back. Level five is now you're using AI like an operating system. It's no longer about, just the app or just the agents or just the chatbots. You're using it in, kind of everything that you're doing. So what that can look like is like this. This is my operating system. So when I need to accomplish something, just like I would go to my Windows, Microsoft Windows, or my Mac iOS, I come here. If I need an agent, I come here. If I need, to work with images, I'll come here. I've got my image generators, my prompt enhancers. I've got my image prompt library. I can kind of scan through and go, yeah, that's the kind of one that I want. Come back here, grab the prompt, come back to my operating system, choose whichever image generator I want to do, come back home and go off and do something else. So it's infused everywhere. You've got now workflows, you've got automations, and you've got tools and kind of a bit of everything, just like you do in an operating system. You've got all these different things that you've kind of built out. At level 6 is now you're operating like an organization. So now you're not just you with your operating system and your team. You're now seeing how those integrate into the organization with the company's data and maybe even building types of agent swarms to be able to do much more advanced work than you could do by yourself. You're sharing agents with others. You're allowing each other to use each other's agents and tools and accomplishing way more than you could before. Okay, those are the 6 levels of AI literacy. 90% of people are at, oh, I forgot to go back to this one. This is the organization. 90% of people are at level 2 or below. So it's still early. The bar is low. So if you're getting into AI just now, or you haven't gotten into AI at all, I mean, you're starting to get behind, but you're not really behind because people aren't really learning this and adopting it very quickly.
Fascinating. Hmm.
Now, the benefit of really digging in and getting educated and getting your AI literacy up for your career is almost immediate. The first thing that happens within the first month is that you become about 30% more effective and are able to produce 30% higher quality work. I mean, that alone is worth it.
Hmm.
But then as you start to understand these tools and these methodologies and what an agent is and whatnot, you start to see how you can start to retool and build new ways of working that are just much better than you were doing before. So you essentially become like an AI manager. You're creating AI workers, creating AI enhanced workflows. And this is one of the biggest problems that CEOs talk about is that their people don't really understand AI. The CEO can't change the company. It needs their people to. And if you're one of the people who really understand AI and know how to build out these AI systems and tools and agents, suddenly you become extremely valuable to the company, essential to the company. So this is a way to get extremely valuable and needed and start future-proofing yourself almost immediately. Now, after several months, you get to the point of understanding where you can start to see where this is going and really see the potential, not only of AI, but for your company. What new products and services could we create with this? What new markets could we tap into? How could we kind of use AI to just be a much better, streamlined, or to grow? You start to see all the possibilities for your organization. And again, CEOs need those kind of people in their organization. Whichever department you're in, if you can see how you can evolve your department, again, that's extremely valuable. So you end up being a sort of what I call an AI leader. Now, the fourth thing that this gives you is that you can now pivot like a pro. You understand the new world of work, the way things are going, and how you are going to be positioned in it. And so that allows you to identify, are you in a sinking ship? Because companies, the ones who are innovating and integrating and using AI are going to grow and advance. And the ones that are kind of waiting or just stagnant are not. And if you're in a company that is not growing and advancing and allowing you to use AI and really developing yourself, you're getting behind. And if that company, I would suggest, has a very good chance of going under in the coming years. And that's a sinking ship that you don't want to be on. So it gives you the ability to see where this is going so you can position yourself really well, and also to see where this is going so that you can, take advantage of opportunities and get yourself into positions that you really benefit from. Okay, so summing up everything I just said, How to be future proof in the AI era is number one, you just have to learn how to use AI. There's no getting around it. You've got to learn how to use AI to produce results, which we've been calling AI literacy. And then identify the problems that you are best positioned to solve while leveraging AI with your experience, your domain knowledge, your connections, everything you've got. What are you best positioned and most inspired to solve? And then align your career with those opportunities to solve those kind of problems. All right. So if you're here today and you're already job seeking, or maybe you've identified that, it's time to pivot because you're not in the right organization. Ariel, how do you use AI in the job search process?
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that and fascinating. And I love that assessment of like what level are we at, right? And so something definitely to take away and we can talk more about that maybe at a later time with anyone who's interested if you want to chat with Jeff about that. But if you are job seeking as he said and if you are considering maybe you need to find an organization that's more aligned. Then there's some things that you need to be aware of right now. So just like the world of work has changed in terms of how we need to use AI, job search has changed as well in terms of how we use AI. And what worked for your job search 10 years ago is not going to work today. There is a new way that employers are recruiting using AI. There's tons of ways they're using AI, and I won't get into all of that here today. But they are getting smarter and more efficient with how they are finding qualified people. And there's a lot of competition right now out in the job market where we are in Canada and also in the US. But the way that you need to position yourself in order to successfully find a job has really changed. So there's three things that you need to do really well in order to successfully find the right work. Number one is be really clear on your value. Number two is you have to build a very strong visibility, and that's in person and online. It's both. And you have to use AI to your advantage because, as Jeff said, if you're not using it, you're falling behind. And that's true with your job search right now, as well as in your career if you are employed. So let's talk about the first piece about value. So when I talk about being clear on your value, I mean, exactly what Jeff was talking about earlier of what can you get paid to do? What problems can you solve and what aspirations can you fulfill? And so as coaches, we help with that process if you're not clear. But if you are clear on your value, then it's time for you to create a strong pitch and a very clear value proposition that allows you to clearly tell your target employer or your key, people who are going to hire you, here's the problems that I am best positioned to solve for you. And here are the important opportunities that I can help you to go after. Right. So when we're talking to employers, we're looking at either problems or opportunities, or as Jeff calls them, aspirations. So once we're clear on our value, then we have to work on our visibility. And I feel like this is where a lot of people I see are doing maybe about 50% of the work well, but a lot of times falling short. And so when I talk about visibility, it's usually two things. It's online and in person. So online, we want to talk about having a strong LinkedIn profile and maybe a portfolio or other digital kind of version of yourself that you could like a digital one pager that you can share with people. And it's also the in person visibility, which means standing out within your network and within your profession. So, talking about your career, talking about your value with those around you, because relational hiring is still a thing, which is sort of the paradox of the world of AI that we live in, is even though everyone's using AI to improve the application process and the job search process, relational hiring is still happening a lot. And so we need to use our network and we need to be visible in our network in order to get hired. The third element is the AI advantage. And this is something that I've recently become passionate about because I see the ocean of options out there when it comes to AI job search tools. There's so many apps, there's so many tools, and a lot of people get overwhelmed and aren't sure how to use them effectively. And so one of the things that I like to do is really teach you how to use AI technology and tools, and even build your own kind of, as Jeff was alluding to search more effectively and more efficiently. And so the two main things that we focus on when if you're just new to AI and you're, kind of trying to figure this all out is how do you actually prompt engineer to get those effective results? that we're talking about, right? When Jeff said, you need to be able to produce clear results, that's true in your career. That's also true in your job search. If you don't know how to use AI effectively and prompt in a way that's going to get you those really strong results, that's going to differentiate your applications and make it sound like you and still have that impact, then you're just using it as like an auto generate tool to create resumes or what have you, but it's not going to actually give you the results you need. So prompt engineering effectively is one. The second piece is using it as your strategic partner. So that means either with research or creative thinking. There's lots of ways to use it as your strategic partner to job search, but and those are some of the things that I teach. So when we're talking about AI augmented job search, a lot of people say, okay, well, I can get it to write my resume, but like what else? Like what do you mean by that? Well, I use ChatGPT with my clients for research, for writing, and for assessing. Those are kind of the three main areas. So when we're talking research, we're talking employer research, salary research, negotiation research, problems that we can solve. So that value proposition research, researching recruiters. There's lots of types of research we can do, right? When we're talking writing, we're talking about creating targeted applications and curated content. So usually with resumes, I use the word targeting because we're targeting to a specific company. And then with cover letters, we usually have lots of things we could say. We want to make sure that we're curating that effectively. So that's the way that we use writing. We can also use writing though for our online presence, right? So there's lots of ways to promote ourselves. And then with assessing, we're talking about assessing how good of a match we are for positions. So even like asking the GPT to give us a score or rating of our resumes and our cover letter against the application, asking for tips to improve it, asking it to assess the quality of our language, the quality of our application, to assess tone, to assess the research that we've done to figure out what are the problems we could solve. There's so many ways we can use it to assess. So those are kind of the three areas, and where we're doing that or what we're using it for is our personal brand, marketing ourselves, and then pitching ourselves also effectively in the evolving job market that we're in. So the reason to do this, people say, well, I can write a resume, I can write a cover letter. I've been doing this in my career. Why should I change how I'm doing my job search? The reason is because if you let the AI do the time consuming tasks of your job search, that gives you more ability to strategically go after what your ideal work is. And you can be more focused in your job search and be more excellent in the quality of the applications that you're putting forward with so much less time. So it allows you to create that efficiency and that strategy to clearly go after the roles that you really want and to apply with excellence. So this is the new job search formula that we're seeing that really is what works today. It's understanding your value, having that really clear visibility platform, both online and in your personal network, which we talk about when we talk about pitching ourselves or having an elevator pitch, for example. That's what that means. And then using AI as your competitive advantage and as your creative and strategic partner to help you more efficiently and effectively find work.
All right. So if people are wanting some help with that process, Ariel, what would you suggest as some next steps?
Yeah, so I offer a free strategy session where we can talk about your job search, maybe talk about if you've figured out yet what is your ideal work, what do you want to do? Maybe you're deciding it's time for a pivot and you want to figure out what that is. Then we can have that strategy session and talk about those areas because really there's figuring out what your ideal work is and then there's going after it. And I help people with both parts. And I have a course called the Ideal Work Search Method, which is a way that I teach you how to use AI, and then I give you the coaching support to go after that kind of work as well. And what about you, Jeff? If they want to know more about, using AI in their career, how can they work with you?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you can just, book a free consult with me and we'll talk about your situation and, kind of where you at with AI, what your goals are and, how to get you to that point that we were talking about, get your AI literacy up. And I have this thing called the AI Accelerator Program where I basically help people with this. I help everyone get their own command center, get set up with the different tools and the understanding. And I mentor them one on one. so that we get them to the point where they're producing great results in their work. So what are the use cases that you need AI for and that we could use AI for? So how to get you to that sort of third level we were talking about, not just being efficient with AI, but getting to that sort of management role and then getting to that leadership role where you can start to see where the ball's going. So yeah, that's kind of what I can help with. So yeah, if you want to meet with myself, you can book a free consult with me just by using this QR code. And Ariel?
Yeah, and if you want to find out more about my course and book a consult with me, then you can use that QR code there on the screen as well to connect with either of us. You can also connect with either of us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
excellent.
right.
Well, this has been a great conversation, and thank you so much, Jeff, for joining me today online. Thank you for our listeners for being here. We welcome your input and your comments below, and feel free to reach out to us to either of us if you'd like to continue the conversation further.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks, Ariel.
Thank you. Bye now.